we're at Willow Tree Coffeehouse, downtown Johnson City. If you're from Johnson City and you haven't been to Willow Tree, you've probably missed one of the. It's become one of the cornerstones of downtown.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
really. It was Galaxy Lounge when they first remodeled it and made it into a music venue. Then Jamie sold it to Teri, who you're going to meet here in just a minute. They just have developed a reputation for booking the best.
Yeah.
Teri was that person that whenever I ran into her, if she told me, hey, this band is coming, you need to see this band, I went to see the band because her taste was always right on, and she got tired of driving all over the country seeing these bands she loved, and so she opened up her own place dedicated to music and art and books, and as you can see, we're
in the bookshop.
We're in the middle of everything Teri loves.
And we've talked about Teri a lot, so it's about time we actually sit down with her and introduce you to her if you don't already know her.
Right, and if you remember way back in our Jamie Dove episode, he talked glowingly about her, said some really nice things, and we wanted to get back to her sooner, but we had trouble with that streaming stuff, so this way we're going to bring you the whole interview. We're kind of keeping it down because they're open right now. I feel like I'm in a library. We're in the bookstore,
exactly.
so I'm kind of talking quiet. But we're going to be talking to Teri here in just a minute. I just wanted to give you a little idea of what's coming up. I guess now we can go to the title sequence.
That's right.
Waste anybody's time.
Get nose, teeth check, all
That's right.
You always tell everybody ahead of time, right? Because I always do. When I shouldn't. Chef from the Tipton Street, downtown Deli. He was so funny. I loved him. He came up here one day and he's like, "Be still for just a second," and he reached up.
I can totally see him doing that.
God.
I can totally see him doing that.
I love you on a whole new level right now. You didn't just let me know, you got it for me.
That's a
He's
real
great.
friend. That's a ride or die friend.
I know. We're friends forever and ever.
This is awesome.
It's good.
I don't usually like the sour stuff, and this is right on.
I think so too. I was happy that they finally started selling things where we could get it because we sold so many ciders, but there was nothing local.
Yeah.
And I'm trying so hard to just get as many locals on our menu as
That's
possible. So as
fantastic.
soon as they did.
That's great.
And
I
everybody
haven't been up there. I haven't
either.
I've had so many people tell me that I need to, and performers I know are doing stuff up there all the time, but I just haven't made it. I'm a homebody.
I haven't been either.
Really?
Okay.
No, I haven't. I don't. Seems like when I finally do get out, it's like right after work, and I just go across the street, or I go out of town.
Yeah.
You see, and that's me. If I do go anywhere, I just walk down the street, and I'll come here, or I'll go to Newman's, and that's really my world. Okay, I'm going to turn this off so we don't keep staring at it.
Yeah, that's hard.
It's really tough. If you could, the first thing is look into the camera, and assuming you're talking to someone that you've never met before, tell them your name and what you do and kind of what you're known for in Johnson City, if anything.
Okay. My name's Teri Dosher, and I am the owner of Willow Tree Coffeehouse and Music Room in downtown Johnson City. That's okay.
We're good.
I started to say if I put Gladys the Alien over there, it would be so. They did
That
a
would be
call-in
awesome.
radio show with me at some station over in Virginia, and so I put Gladys in the chair in front of me. This was back, and so Gladys and I had this wonderful conversation, and it was so painless because I was talking to a wooden alien the whole time.
You're talking to your friends.
Yeah,
Right. I understand.
She was the one asking me the questions, and it was so laid back. But when you feel comfortable, though, you ramble.
That's
and so
welcome to our show.
Yeah. We stay on topic for about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Usually the first part will always be we ask someone who they are. We go through and kind of get to know you a little bit and how you got to where you're at, and then it goes off the rails somewhere right after that. It becomes so much fun. It's just whatever comes to mind.
That's easier.
And we used to have a PG language restriction, but Bailey blew that in like the first episode. So now,
I mean, anytime there's alcohol involved, I mean, it just naturally comes out.
My language has gotten so much worse than when I was teaching. And,
Of course.
and I had to chase down this homeless guy that has been causing us so much trouble. And the more I thought about it, I found him on the sidewalk and I let him have it the other day. And he just stood there silently. And he looked at me and said, "Your language is so unbecoming."
That's when you
That's
go,
the enough.
"Fuck you."
Enough
That's
is enough.
exactly
phase.
what I said. I mean, I had to be pretty. I don't even remember what my language was at that point for me to be so mad that I went looking for him.
Yeah.
But he said, "Your language is so unbecoming." You almost expected him to say it with a teacup in his pinky.
He gets out of
And I
pipe.
said, "Well, you deserved every bit of it."
If only you could just send him to the principal's office, things were
Yes.
still easy.
Well, and so he said, because, I mean, he's got one of those personalities where she said, if he was one of your first graders, he would be your favorite. So it's true, he would be, because he's just so troubled, and he can be such a shit, but at the same time, you see something in him.
Yeah.
But the difference between that and one of the first graders is once you keep trying, you get them eventually. When you're 45 years old, no matter how hard you try, they just continue to take advantage of you, and see, that's where we've gotten. So it's like, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
Don't ever ask us for anything again.
And that's some wisdom that I think applies to most things. You keep trying to get in a lot of situations. You keep trying to get through to somebody, and it's like, if I'm not through to you by now, it's never going to happen.
And you didn't get here for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of them got there because of unfortunate circumstances, and you want so hard to help them get out of it. But at one point, you realize, no, you deserve everything you get at this point. We called it logical consequences when I was teaching.
Well, let's back up a little bit.
Oh, wait, is that going to be on there?
Yeah. Unless you don't want it to be. I mean,
It's fine.
we want everybody to have a good time. We don't want to cause we don't want to cause too much drama unless it's good for views.
Yeah, okay.
And then we're totally behind it.
That's right.
Let's back up. You were in teaching for how long?
I taught for about 12 years.
Right on. Were you from around here originally?
Yes. And I went back and got my teaching degree later on. So teaching was like my first dream that came true.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy how that just was synchronistic. And before
Well,
you know it, I ended up in the classroom, and I did it for 12 years.
We got to back up some more then.
Yeah.
Now, that was so teaching was was a goal you had for a while.
Yeah.
So, Teri leaving high school, what was she like?
Very lost and confused, and she stayed that way until probably 25 more years. But I went to college and I got my degree in business. At the time, I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but everybody discouraged me from it, and so I didn't do it. And then I had an assortment of other jobs. I was assistant manager at the John Spear Center at one point, and I was assistant director for the State Board of Registration Office. It seemed like every 4 years I changed what I'm doing. But then I started working for storytelling in Jonesboro, and I loved that. But that's when I really wanted to be a teacher started to take hold. But I couldn't figure out how to make it work, because at the time I was married, and so he was 3 or 4, and I couldn't afford to go back to school. But just by chance, I got laid off because they were downsizing. I got unemployment. I got compensation. So the next day, I went to ETSU and just to talk to them to see if it was possible that I could get enrolled. Just happened to talk to the right person. She gave me a tuition scholarship position, and literally the next week I was sitting in the MAT program. It was crazy.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I know, because just by chance I knew there was something possibly going to happen at storytelling where there was a chance I may lose my job. So I thought, I'm just going to turn in the application to ETSU just to see what happens. And so just a few days later, I went out there and told them, I've got my application in, and I just wanted to see, is it possible? And before you know it, I was in the MAT program, and I graduated 2 years later with a 4.0 average. It was crazy.
So it took a little trial and error. You kind of throw yourself in the path of opportunity.
Yes.
You just kind of go to where the opportunity could be and pursue it.
Yeah, and my life just seems to start to have been unfolding that way for the past 20 years, I guess, at this point. It's interesting. I've been listening to some podcasts, and the last two was an interview with the guy who wrote The Alchemist, and he talks about, life unfolding like that when you go by just purely inspiration and intuition, and he pretty much says make your wish and then get out of the way, and literally that's what's been happening to me, knock on wood.
That's awesome.
For a little while, so I'm just going to keep trusting that.
I mean, I first met you through Derby. You were a teacher,
Yeah.
and Zoe was skating for the juniors, and you were always the person that anytime Teri says there's a band coming, you need to see this band. After a couple tries, I was like, I don't even question it anymore. I never heard of that band, and
I love
every
that.
time you would tell me, I would go see a band. So when you said that you're going to open up a music venue, my reaction, I think, was like, yeah, that really totally makes sense, because I can't wait to see who she's going to book. How did you make that transition from teaching school for 12 years?
Yeah.
How did you decide to follow your bliss into music?
That was really surreal too, because it started, I would go to music venues a lot, and on my summers off, weekends, that's what I loved to do, was go hear live music. And it actually started at the Acoustic Coffeehouse. I always said if I write a book, it needs to be called The Day the Dryer Broke, because it literally started at the Acoustic Coffeehouse. My dryer broke, and so we would go there to do laundry and then go over to the Acoustic Coffeehouse to sit. And I was sitting over there one night, and Yarn played. And it was also a chance for Zoe and I she was right at that age where it's like we could get away from the TV now and start going out doing things. She was like 16, and we both loved that so much. So we were sitting over there one night, and Yarn played, and I think there were 10 of us in the room, but it blew me away to realize there was that kind of music on a local level. And so then we started traveling to see them because they don't come through Johnson City that often. So we would go to Winston-Salem to see them. And then through that, just started discovering all of these other bands. So I would come back and, talk to Jim, say, could you bring this band? And he would try to, and sometimes it would work for Down Home too, and he would listen and bring them. But I just had all of these, but no one was coming to hear these bands that I love so much.
Right.
So I got to thinking, I think I have all these ideas on how to make this work. And so in my head, I started to envision if I had a place, this is exactly what I would do. And it would have to be funded by a coffee shop, and I love coffee shops. And even though I love the Acoustic Coffeehouse, they weren't an earlier coffee shop where a teacher could go hang out on a Saturday morning because they weren't open until later.
Right. And it used to be kind of a challenge to get coffee there some days.
Yeah. That's true. But I still love the atmosphere. But
Yeah.
I always thought Johnson City just needs a really chill place, just to come and hang out and sit there for hours if you wanted to, and nobody's going to stare you out of the spot because they need it for. So I just started building this dream in my head, and Zoe and I talked about it more and more, and one day, literally, I was just out in the yard hula hooping, and I thought, if we're ever going to do this, we just need to, because people started saying, you really should do this when I would talk to them about it. I said, if we ever did it, we should just do it where the Galaxy Lounge is now. And I thought, I'm going to talk to Jamie and see if he ever, decides to let that space go. Maybe he would rent it to us. And literally, like that next week, he decided he didn't want to really do the Galaxy Lounge anymore because he was getting so busy with everything else. And he's like, I really have a pretty strong idea, about what I'd like to go in there, but would you talk to me about it? So I told him. He's like, yeah, that sounds really good.
Because Jamie's a big music lover too.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that defines who Jamie is. I met him through Kahoot many years ago. And he said a lot of really nice things about you. We interviewed him last year in the dark.
Yeah.
But he said a lot of really nice things about you and kind of told the other side of that conversation on how you came to him, and he thought that was just a fantastic idea.
Or I was crazy like everybody else.
Yeah, tomato, great idea, crazy, who cares?
Yeah.
There's a fine line between them.
As long as it works, that's what I say.
Exactly. And I look back on it and I think I probably was crazy. I think I was probably possessed because I left a really good job that I loved with all the time off to do everything that I always loved to do. I had retirement insurance. I had 180 sick days built up And so if I were to get sick, I could be out of work for a year and be paid for it.
Yeah.
And now if I'm sick for a week, I'm on the unemployment line.
Right. Oh gosh.
Well, not that bad, but at the time, I don't know.
But
Sometimes
that's following your passion, right? I mean, you felt that was the only possible course of action.
Yeah, I was possessed by it. And there's actually a really good book that because as I've stepped away from it and I reflect on it, I really have been baffled at what made me think I could do it, because I didn't know anything about running a coffee shop or a music venue. I just knew what I would love to do. We taught ourselves how to make coffee with YouTube videos. Literally 2 weeks before we opened, I didn't know what an Americano was. I had to ask the guy at the coffee bar. It was a festival, music festival, coffee truck. It's like, what's an Americana? I should know. I'm opening a music venue here in a couple of months, and coffee is going to be like pizza's in business. But there was a book that I read called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. She's the lady who wrote Eat, Pray, and Love. And she describes the entire process. It's like an idea comes to you because it was meant for you to have it. She talks about it like it's an entity all on its own. And you get that idea because it was meant for you to have it. If you let your fears keep you from embracing it, it's just going to go somewhere else. So do you let it possess you and just step out of the way, or do you just let it go to somebody else? And I guess I just let it possess me.
Right. Believe me, I'm possessed a little bit myself. With mine was video. It has been since I was a little kid.
So you took it and ran with it.
I feel it. Although I haven't taken a plunge, I've taken tiny little steps into the one toe in the water is about as far as I've gotten. But it's growing here fast. So I appreciate that.
So what I want to know is, what was your first booking that you went absolutely crazy about? Like your first big band that you were like, holy shit, how did I do that?
Elephant Revival. Well, my first, oh my God, I can't believe this was happening, was the Yarn and Big Daddy Love co-bill for our grand opener. Because both of those were bands I had tried so hard to build a crowd for, and never could they get more than 30 people. So, and the Willow Tree was because I wanted to build a crowd for them. So I had to work really hard to get both of their booking people to agree, yes, we're going to let both of them play on the same night. And so they did, and then I was like, I'm going to sell this out. And both of the bands were like, no, you're not. You would never let more than 30 people in Johnson City. And so I kept promoting it, and it was the Willow Tree grand opener. So that had a lot to do with it. But like Christiana, the lead singer from Yarn, he called me or texted me a couple weeks before. He's like, how many pre-sale tickets have you sold? 200. He's like, you really are going to sell this out. And sure enough, and we sold past our capacity, because I thought, people will be on the sidewalks. Right. So our capacity legally is 355. We sold 385 tickets, and people were lined up all the way down the block, and they came from, as much as we know, 5 different states to be here. So it was packed. Crazy.
That is amazing.
But that's the thing. If you want to make a place that's going to attract people that are fans of that kind of music, build it and let them see this is it. This is what you found. But it had to be a slow process in Johnson City, because I found that in this town with anything, I don't care what it is, if it's kind of a new thought or a new niche, people are not going to trust it. They want to go back to their Price is Right. They want to go back to their soap operas, something they recognize at home. Yeah. And it's really hard to get people out. It's
hit that a lot? Hard, and it still is, and especially compared to other cities. I mean, I go to Winston-Salem, and you'll see or Asheville, Knoxville, and you'll see the same bands get such bigger turnouts in venues who don't work nearly as hard to promote as I do. So bands, that was so successful because we made it the grand opener, and so many people, both bands have such big fan bases who had not really seen them play together that much in a venue together. So things like that tend to get a really big crowd. Sam Quinn always.
Oh yeah.
Black Lilies always sell things out. But other things, really good music, like the Steel Wheels.
And that's the depth of the music you get here. I tell people all the time, I don't care what night you come. I don't care if you've heard of them. It's going to be a good show. You're gonna see good musicians there. There may be one that isn't your favorite, but you can't say that wasn't a good musician that you just saw.
And that's so important to me. And I am trying to branch out now, because so much of it is just things that I absolutely love. And it's things I go listen to, and it's things I spend money on. But I'm trying to be more diverse, so sometimes it's not things that I listen to, but I know that they're really good, and other people who like that genre really love them. So I am trying to be more diverse. But that being, yes, I said this was good, and it's going to be so important to me. That's why I always tell people, I don't fill empty dates. If there's not somebody coming through that I absolutely can say, this is going to be good, we're closed that night, or we close early. Yeah. But if I can't say that I really think it's going to be good. But sometimes, we'll give opportunities to other people who I want them to have an audience, and other people might not be giving them one. So on one of those nights where we don't have something booked, like, maybe somebody local is wanting to play in front of
performance
people.
shows. You know me, the last 5 years or so, all my tastes have kind of run more towards performance than music. So whereas my entire life it was music, I would go discover every local band. Now I'm more into the performance side. You gave my show Secret Society a chance at the first year, and that spun off in all these different things.
We've actually both performed here.
That's right.
I don't think of it as performing when I'm here with the vaudeville show.
It's totally performing.
And I love things like that. I love things that break out of the box,
right.
And are different. We're trying to do more storytelling events, more spoken word, poetry. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, is that how the Wednesday night open mic sort of came about, or
that came about because so many people were asking for it. But for the longest time, I kept hearing about these legendary open mics. So I've been to so many open mics that I didn't like because people were disrespectful and nothing was happening there. So I knew what I didn't want it to be, but I wasn't sure how to let that happen. So I was doing research of different open mics, and there was this one open mic that Phil Leonard introduced me to. It's in somewhere in New York in a place called Cafe Lena. And it was a lady who opened a coffee shop cafe to support music. And she had an open mic night that became legendary. So listening and reading about her inspired me to really want to make this good. So I researched some others and came back and told Sam Love, who is in charge of our open mics, and we kind of put our heads together on how we wanted it to run. But for the longest time, even though people were asking for open mic, nobody was coming for them. So there were nights where literally one person showed up, 2 people might have been in the crowd, but Sam and Will and Zoe would get up there and do haikus and air guitar bands. And I think at one point people just started to come to see how ridiculous they could be. Yep. And before you know it, well, I'd say that it was probably months. Some nights, like last Wednesday, the sign up were filled up in 5 minutes, and there were like 6 people who hadn't gotten on, and some had traveled from Black Mountain, Roan Mountain. Sometimes people come from Knoxville.
Oh, wow.
So we were like, okay, what are we going to do? We can't let these people come in. And so we cut it down to 10 minutes, and lots of times it's standing room only.
That's awesome.
So it's turned into probably one of my favorite nights of the whole week.
Were you around in Johnson City? And this is a late 80s, early 90s thing. When I was a kid, we would go down to Quarterbacks, which was down on Walnut Street, and they had, at least locally, it was an open mic that was the place to be. It was because back then, a lot of smaller bands had to come through Johnson City to expand to be bigger. But that open mic would be anything from some ridiculous local band who just learned to play guitar the day before, playing something awful, to some big national acts would come through there just looking for a gig to play one night, just for fun. And they would change their name to something else.
Yeah, an alias?
Yeah, they would use an alias, and it'd be like,
how fun.
and then later, only years later, would I find out that this band using an alias had been some big band. It's like, what? And that's where I developed my love of live shows, just through and variety, variety and live shows, and between the two, it was always either sublime or ridiculous. Either way, I was in.
Was it once a week?
It was once a week, every Sunday.
And how did they do their selection process?
It was a big mess. It was an old rock and roll punk bar, so I think it was pretty much first come, first serve, and they played until they had to stop serving beer.
So you didn't sign up; you just waited your turn.
They just they I think they had to contact them in advance, and they would accept just the first few. If somebody good came along and they knew they were good, they had no problems bumping somebody who was maybe brand new. So they always started with the brand new people, and work their way up to people they thought seemed okay. It was not always the case.
Yeah.
And that was part of the silliness of the whole thing, is you would kick off with someone just because they didn't know them and they weren't from around here. They would blow it away. And then the last band may just be one guy from a band that someone knew, and a bunch of people didn't know what they're doing. So it was always fun. It was always fun. I love the discovery and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's ours too. We have some extreme amateurs, some who have just played in front of their bedroom mirror and who'll take the chance to get up there. And
That's
those
awesome.
are always my favorites, when they're brave enough to get up there, even if it's not good. But you would be so surprised at how many times it's, oh my gosh, nobody's seen this but your bedroom walls.
That's
This is crazy. And then some other performers, who are more well known, usually sell tickets, but they just have a new song that they want to try out.
I love that. Yeah. We used to go out with Kenny Chesney when he was at ETSU.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he had a big night where there's going to be music industry representatives. I need everybody to come out. Okay, Kenny, just stop blowing smoke at me, and I'll go. But yeah, he was didn't think a thing of it until years later. My sister was crazy about this guy, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's what happened to me because I didn't listen to country music, and my
neither.
husband at the time was like, somebody was on TV and he said, "Have you ever heard of Kenny Chesney?" They said this guy's from Johnson City. I said, "Kenny Chesney?" I sat beside of him in economics class. Holy crap!
Yeah, he was a few years ahead of me at ETSU when I started, so he was getting ready to graduate. So I only knew him like my first semester there, but it was fun. He was in communications. I was in communications.
That's funny.
Yeah, any Kenny Chesney show you can survive is a good one in my opinion.
And have you seen, speaking of people who sort of make it big, have you seen people come here who are like little amateurs who are like actually growing and becoming big bands?
The one that comes to mind is I have seen them come through that no one knows, and they're starting to get more and more attention, which is so exciting. 49 Winchester is one of those.
I've
and
seen
Chase
them.
happens to work here, so they're so good.
They are. I got to introduce them at Little Chicago. I hate that I hadn't seen them before then.
Yeah.
And I introduced them, and I stuck around for the whole show.
Yeah.
They're really great.
They're so powerful and young and original.
I think that's what I like. They have that, I don't know, that young smugness. I don't know if that's the right word, but they're playing it, and they know that they're playing
so
the heck out of it.
confident out of the hills of Virginia.
Yeah.
I posted one of their videos because I so want people that I respect their opinion to hear them. So I posted their video and tagged every person that I know that I thought would love them. And one of my friends who was a booking person, he messaged me and he said, "Wow, that was really good." He said that's a really high level of talent for somebody who hasn't been playing that long. He said, "We're really going to keep our eye on them." I think the biggest one, though, is Amethyst. It is so exciting to see what's happening with Amethyst.
She was a rock star the first time I
Yes.
met her. I mean, she was just playing at ETSU one day in a hallway.
Yeah.
She was already a rock star in the hallway.
She was born a rock star.
Wow.
I think it's just now people are starting to realize, she's good. I think
yeah.
she's going to take off. And she already is in
Well,
so
I
many
mean,
ways.
didn't she perform with the Indigo Girls last year?
Yeah,
or-
and Rhiannon Giddens, and she's working on an album with Moon Taxi right now. She's doing one of their
I
songs.
love Moon Taxi.
She's touring Europe. She's a big
That's
deal,
amazing.
and she got so far on her own. I mean, her father, such an inspiration and a mentor.
Oh, yeah.
But it was her, booking things. It was her sending the emails, being her manager, and just being so professional and polished. To me, somebody who watched her, I had so much respect for her as a person and a musician. So to see this just all of a sudden happening for her, and I say all of a sudden, it's been years, but in comparison to what some people have to go through.
Yeah.
Before when she played here, she would get nice turnouts, but now it's like door busting turnouts. She talked about doing her CD release show here in November. It's like, by November, those are going to be $30 tickets, and they'll be sold out in no time.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
great.
so proud of her.
I don't have many regrets in life, but one, she wanted to do Secret Society, and her challenge was she knew that I wasn't crazy about the song Wagon Wheel, but I grew up in Johnson City, and I feel like I earned it. That's a whole nother episode.
She wanted to sing Wagon Wheel.
And she said that what if I came up with an arrangement of Wagon Wheel that you would like, and did it on your show? I'm like, if you can come up with an arrangement of Wagon Wheel that I'm gonna like, Absolutely. You'll win first prize. We didn't give away prizes, but we never had time. When she had time, I wasn't doing a show. And it's like, oh.
So I wonder if she ever did it,
I don't
because
know.
I've never heard her do it.
I don't know.
I would love to know what it is.
I would too.
Her CD release show, we're going to make her do.
I'll come by and I'm like, you owe me.
You owe me a wagon wheel. Ironically enough, you owe me a wagon wheel.
I told her, I'm going to hold you to that. I'm not going to hold her to that.
Oh, but yeah, she's something else.
Well, it's got to be cool to be a part of such a rich musical scene, because I've told people for years, in Johnson City, if you know where to go, even before Willow Tree was here, if you knew where to go, you could find some pretty good bluegrass bands, just good old boys playing. But it's cool to have a sort of center for all that, because I do feel like it all sort of revolves now around, it used to be down home, and it is to some extent now, but I think Willow Tree is definitely the
I think
epicenter.
an interesting thing, though, a lot of people at first, when you first opened, were trying to, they wanted to be Down Home versus Willow Tree, but it's two different kinds of music. They're similar, but there's two different types of music. I can enjoy both places and have the best time.
Yeah.
It just depends on what mood of music I'm in that night.
And that's what I've always felt too, and same with the acoustic coffee house.
Yeah.
I never understood people who tried to make competitions out of those three, and coffee shops. It seems like every time when Dos Gatos moved on the same block, everybody, or certain people, just started to imagine, well, there's a drama, and of course that was bad and she's got to be mad. No, now I just don't have to walk so far up the hill to get nitro coffee. Because to me, a rising tide raises all ships, and you don't go into any decent city and there be one coffee shop.
Right.
And when we opened, Dick has had a coffee shop downtown for a long time, and he was very welcoming to us. So of course, did I look to see if our sales dropped when they moved on the same block? Well, they did it. If we're slow, do I go peep in and see if they're slow too? But we coexist beautifully, and our sales hasn't dropped, and their business is great. It's apples and oranges.
If anything, since they opened, I drink twice as much coffee.
Yeah.
It's becoming a problem.
And so, same with the acoustic coffee house. I had so much respect for the fact that they had music 7 nights a week too, and I discovered so much good music at the acoustic coffee house. Before I opened, I was there all the time, or when I could. But then when I open, I'm here all the time. And same with Down Home. It's a legendary music room, and for anybody to assume that I would even want to compete with that at all, I have no desire to compete with them, because I love them. I don't want to do anything to take away from their business. But I think that that's part of the reason why we are starting to get more recognized as a place that has a good music scene, is because we're so different in so many ways.
Yeah.
Some people just wouldn't be nearly as good a fit here as they would be at the Down Home.
Or the Hideaway.
Yeah, or the Hideaway. So when there are bands come through that I think that really wouldn't work for us at that time, or we don't have the opening, I send them to all of these places. And Acoustic Coffee House was a wonderful place to send a bunch of them.
And they could have any kind of music there.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it was the most eclectic collection of music, from weird noise music to rock and roll to I saw a metal band there once, which was really cozy and kind of threatening.
Yeah, so many different kinds. It's such a wonderful atmosphere. I think the last show I saw there was Community Center. It was a band I had heard such good things about.
I know of them.
And so a bunch of us closed up and went over to here, and people, there were those people like, are you here to try to steal them for the Willow Tree? No, I'm here to have fun. And you saw the energy that was dancing around there in the Acoustic Coffee House. I don't think I could duplicate what's happening here in my venue.
Right.
So it was perfect for that space.
And that's kind of an extension of Jim's personality. This is an extension of your personality. Each place is kind of an extension of the owner's personalities, and I love that. The more different they are, I mean, my biggest fear when they close Massengills is that that's an ideal place for a Starbucks. And that's like a nightmare that I had for days after they were closing. It was just my own paranoia, but I'm like, oh, don't do this. Don't bring all of this.
I know that might hurt me a little bit.
Because you remember Asheville, and this is something I wanted to lead up to is the running a business on Main Street, Johnson City. In Asheville, for 10 years, downtown was all local places, and it was all really groovy vibes. And now all that stuff is starting to be bought up by Atlanta, Canadian, New York businesses that are kicking out the locals,
Yeah.
and now the locals are just kind of trying to find a new home.
And making their property taxes go up.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
with Market Square in Knoxville.
Oh,
when
yeah.
Rita's popping up on Market Square. No.
I remember when there was like one little Greek restaurant on Market Square and a grimy club that I loved.
Yeah.
And that was my Market Square. And now I'm like, wow,
No.
this is
it's-
too nice for me.
Yeah. It's sad to see that happen because I think the magic always happens in those little local
Yeah.
places.
Are you seeing? I shouldn't say that. Are you worried that that kind of success could hit downtown Johnson City, or
I
can
don't-
we hold on with the
I
locals?
like to think we can hold on. I mean, I know there's people talking about, bringing like Mass General and these other people who like to see more higher end retail come in. I don't know. I try not to worry about those things. The
Yeah.
only thing that I really worry about, because I moved in at a time where everybody said you don't want to move in downtown Johnson City, and so I moved in when rent was pretty cheap, or I would
Right.
have never been able to do this.
Right.
So my only worry is that the price of real estate around me goes up so much that I can't afford this space anymore. Then that's probably the only thing that really scares me. And I'm not even worried about somebody coming in who does something better than me, because I open this because I like what happens here. If somebody comes in and does it better, fine, I'll go back to teaching and I'll go there and I'll have some time off.
You can take time off to go see bands.
So I don't even worry about competition putting me out of business.
Yeah.
I just worry about just not being able to financially continue to do it, because we don't make any money. Every penny that we make and more really goes to the music. On nights we have music, the Coffeehouse is what keeps us in business, and this is a lot of space to pay for
Sure.
no more than we make. We literally live month to month.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you
if-
expanded into this bookstore that we're in, and I think this is fantastic.
I love this so much.
I'm a huge book fan. I fortunately have a rule in my apartment. It's so full of books that I had to stop buying books. I have to find some way to read books without bringing anything home. It's the only challenge anymore.
I'm the same way, and see, all these books are donated.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful how that happens.
There's
This
some
was a
good books.
synchronistic thing here too. I know. So they'll come through in these boxes of books, and I'm getting them out. I gotta read that before we sell it. I gotta read that before we sell it. So literally at home, I have piles and piles of books. And one day I looked around and I thought, I will be dead before I get through a third of these books. So then I said, okay, I'll take them back to the Willow.
Yeah, I'll start bringing mine down here because I have every now and again I just have to take boxes and I take them to whatever place will maybe give me some credit to get more books.
Yeah.
But
But we'll
so I
trade
have
you
all
for
this-
coffee and beer. How
I'll
about
I'll give you
and
plenty
music.
of books.
Coffee, beer, and music.
I like it. I have to get these out of my place. They gotta go. I love them, and I need them to go to good homes. Is the thing. I can't just toss them away, and the place that buy them, they won't buy them.
Yeah. Bring them down here because it's so much
Yeah.
fun to see. It's so much fun to see the boxes and then try to get in your head, okay, this is the person who donated that, because there's so what that person likes to
You'll
read.
recognize mine
And then
immediately.
their spirit person will come in and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I found all of these books here together. So they'll buy that whole pile.
So actually, you need to start like a matchmaking service based on the books.
Oh, there you go.
That's a good
That's
idea. Right on the inside.
Have them subscribe to
Right.
$3.
This is
$3 a
the
month.
That's a good idea. I'll put that on my vision board.
Oh yeah, and you have the when you started up, I saw it on the internet more then than I do now. You have the vision board of bands you wanted to bring here.
Uh-huh.
And how's your board doing? Is it clear or is it always getting new stuff?
It is. I was actually looking at it yesterday because it started to fade a little bit and fall off. So I stuck it in my office, the space under the stairs. But so many of them have come true, and it's like Elephant Revival but Jack White and Langhorne Slim and all of those are on there too. So it's like, okay, we're going to leave them on there, but we'll see. Because some of them, when I put them on there, they were playing in venues this size, like Aaron Lee Tasjan.
When I saw
was one
Langhorne
of
Slim, he was an opening act for the Tractor-Bird Family Slideshow Players. In
I didn't even know they
places.
still were.
They're not. It's been that long ago.
Yeah.
But he's one of the most fun performers I ever saw. He was basically hitchhiking from from different venue to venue.
Yeah.
He's having trouble with his car, so he was getting rides until he could get it fixed.
And how long ago was that?
That was in the early 2000s, something like that. Whenever the Trachtenbergs were still touring, and they haven't toured in many years now, but he blew me away immediately, and I've been a massive fan ever since.
It's really a religious experience. You can listen to him record it all you want, but until you have seen, I've never seen anybody put that much passion and connect on a love level with an audience like he does.
Yeah, my first experience with him was live, and I've not even listened to him recorded, to tell you the truth.
It's not the same.
My buddy has a live CD that I'll listen to his when we go on a road trip. That's about as close as I got.
So he went up to him at Rhythm and Roots this past year. Usually she doesn't go up to anybody, but if she's been drinking a little bit, she went up to Langhorne Slim and she introduced himself and told him about the Willow Tree
That's
Coffee,
awesome.
and she gave him a sticker. I was like, he'll be like all the others, thank you very much, put the sticker down. But we were sitting, it was a very end of Rhythm and Roots, and everybody was going home, but we went and sat at is it 620 outside there on the patio, and Langhorne Slim walks up the sidewalk and he had a Willow Tree sticker on his guitar in front of everybody. It was, Langhorne Slim has a Willow Tree sticker on his guitar. I think I ran through the restaurant and told everybody, hey, did you see it? Did you see that?
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
I know.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, chipping away at it.
One day.
And as it seems to me, as downtown's changing, Willow Tree in a lot of ways is leading the way, because I'm seeing a lot of these, like Little Chicago Festival. I don't think it's coincidence that a lot of the music that is playing at Little Chicago are bands that have come through here, and it's some of the best of them at that.
It's really been, that's been one of the most rewarding things for me, is how little effort I've had to put in getting the bands. they come to me, and so I'll go through a pick, and for the longest time it wasn't people that other people knew that much, but it was people that I knew that was good. But now more and more bands who do usually draw a much bigger crowd are contacting me to play here, and that means so much to me.
That's great.
To be on that level, like Larry Kill would ask to play here, or Chris Knight, Elephant Revival. I went after them. That was,
but it would be a good example.
Still, yeah. So that's been really nice. I don't really, every now and then I will discover somebody that I would love to play here, and I'll reach out to them. But 95, maybe 98% of the time, I just open my emails, which is so much fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
And find people that I really love, and it means things like that are never wasted on me. So that's my paycheck. I don't make any money, but I love that email.
Well, that is amazing, the switch from, I'm sure that switch from pursuing to being pursued as a venue is
especially
awesome.
for the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Really, when I opened, like months before I opened, I was getting 10 emails a week at least of people 3 months before we opened, just that had heard of it. But lots of times it was people no one had heard of before. They just are coming through and they're looking for a place. But yet it has been a building process to get to people reaching out that people already know. So that's been nice.
In your leisure time, when you're not, in the little bit of time you're not running Willow Tree and working on the music, where do you hang out in Johnson City? Do you like other your favorite places?
Oh yeah, I went to Yeehaw and sat on their back porch yesterday, and I was thinking how nice it is to. 4 years ago, none of that was there. But I like quiet spots, so when I am off, I don't usually really hang out that much here. But when I do, Johnson City Brewing is awesome. Holy Taco after work. Sometimes if I'm not absolutely exhausted, it's so awesome that the Hideaway starts right after our shows are usually
that is
ending.
pretty handy.
So, if you have time, I love to go across the street to the Hideaway. That's such a cool, perky little venue. So there's so many places. And before I opened the Willow Tree, and before so much had come, there was nothing to do. So I was usually going someplace else. But now it's so nice to know I have these places to go. And for coffee shops, I like to go to Descados and sit. There's a coffee shop in Jonesboro where I love to just go find a corner and sit there. 4 years ago, there were no local coffee shops you could go to in the early part of the day.
There were no coffee shops at one time in Johnson City. Really, there wasn't even the Starbucks and if you want a coffee, you got to go by the McDonald's or the or the convenience store
Yeah,
down the street.
Really, there was nothing. And really, except for Acoustic Coffeehouse and down home, and maybe too, it's just places I hadn't really discovered.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have a lot of time and you find a favorite, that tends to be where you go a lot.
Truth.
But yeah, there's so much to do now, which is nice. But it saves gas for me. Every now and then now I'll go
Right.
somewhere else. Like tomorrow, I'm really hoping to go to Winston-Salem and visit a new venue
Research?
there. Yes, it's a new venue. I gotta go see what
Right.
they're doing.
Absolutely.
And there's this new band I've heard, the Black Lilies, I think are going to be playing.